И така, добър вечер. Така, доста голяма аудитория, за което много се радвам. Започва много интересно събитие в, как да кажа, логическа последователност на поредица от събития, които вече организираме тук с съдействието на Междууниверситетския център за развитие на кариерата и Център за добри бизнес практики към катедра управление. Днес имаме очевидно интересна тема. След малко, като загаса лампата, сигурно ще изглежда още по-интересна тук как изглежда курса на биткоин. Но преди това ще дам думата на ръководителя на Междууниверситетския център за развитие на кариерата, професор Близнаков, да каже няколко слова така уводни и след това продължавам нататък с доцент Стоянова. Добре, благодаря. Всъщност му пожелаваме да стане финансов министър, ама ще видим на какво. Финансов министър, на какво ще видим, той след малко ще каже. А сега доцент Стоянова да няколко думи заповядай.
Аз също искам да благодаря на всички, които сте в залата, че сте уважили нашето съвместно събитие. Подготвих се с интерес за лекцията на Влади. Аз ще му казвам само Влади, за да не го объркам. И това, което ми направи впечатление, че за няколко години тази виртуална валута е набрала съществена скорост и към момента се търгува за 1800 евро. Така че 1080 е, значи в перспектива очаквам да стане 1800. Това, което той ще ви сподели като добри практики в търговията с биткоини и с възможности за реализиране на печалба от биткоини, предполагам, ще бъде интересно за всеки един от вас. Още веднъж благодаря и желая ползотворна работа и да натрупате доста нови знания и практики за търговията с биткоини.
Добре, благодаря. Сега вече за някои сигурно ще трябва да представям специално на новия нашия гост Влади Драмалиев. За някои сигурно знаят кой е. Аз ще му оставя възможността той да се представи подробно, но ще кажа, че от който си говоря така и с общността, екосистемата на криптовалутите, всички го знаят и казват, този е в общи линии от най-явните представители, Влади. Освен това имаме един втори лектор, Габриеле Домениchini, Бог да го благославя, което това означава, който по различни причини днес ще участва по един много интересен начин, именно по телемост. Да се надяваме, чукаме на всички дървета, Домениchini и ако не, ще импровизираме, както винаги сме правили, но така или иначе да имате предвид, че имаме двама лектори, единия присъствен и единия така в облак, виртуално. С което всъщност предлагам да дадем думата и да започваме с първата презентация. Приятно слушане на всички.
Много благодаря. Само нали може да отгасим лекичко? Всъщност вторият лектор трябваше да бъде и той тук физически, но полетът му закъсня с 3 часа. И ако беше тръгнал, нямаше да пристигне на време. И затова решихме да го направим по видеовръзка. Но пък той ще слуша и ще се включи, надяваме се, няма да има проблем с интернет връзката, в последствие ще включи. Исках да започна всъщност като благодаря на професор Марчев, добре, на бъдещия професор Марчев и на господин Димитров за помощта при организиране на това събитие. И много съм щастлив да видя толкова много хора, които се интересуват от темата и са тук да слушат моите думи. Презентацията ми всъщност трябваше да е на английски и аз съм подготвил на английски. Затова ще превключа малко на английски, ще поговоря. Всъщност колко човека разбират английски? Предпочитате ли да бъде на български? Добре, значи всички сте... Добре, значи няма да се пресявам по този въпрос. И ще си говоря на английски. Дали се записва презентацията? Дали ще може да я запишем? Така ще е по-полезно. Добре. I will start with my presentation, and before I begin with the essence of the presentation, I would like to mention actually that I'll be talking about Bitcoin, but my primary topic is blockchain. And I won't be talking how to trade Bitcoins. I've given many presentations about this topic, but this is not my primary focus, so to say. I'm more interested in the blockchain, which is a very interesting technology, and I will tell you why it's interesting. But before I begin with the actual part of the presentation, let me tell you who I am for those that don't know me. I've been in the Bitcoin and blockchain sphere. Actually, in 2013, there was no blockchain, or nobody was talking about blockchain. They were talking only about Bitcoin. When I actually started or co-founded this website called bitcoin.com together with a friend of mine, and it was a website that was used for trading cryptocurrencies. You send us our Bitcoins, we convert them to Bulgarian leva and vice versa. And in 2014, I created personally coinfixer.com, which is a website providing similar services. In 2005, after I got some experience with dealing with Bitcoin and other, 2015, yes, yeah. At the end of it, I launched bithope.org, which is currently my primary project, and it's Bitcoin for charity project that non-governmental organizations, non-profit organizations can use in order to generate funding for their causes through Bitcoin. And they can receive Bitcoins from people all over the world. And in 2014, actually, I started the Bulgarian Bitcoin Association, co-founded it with a couple of like-minded individuals. But unfortunately, the Bulgarian Bitcoin Association did not produce the effect that I was hoping it will. And what I'm talking about is developing the community. And that's why in 2016, I started the Sofia crypto meetup. Actually, it was two other people who started the first meetup, and then I continued. Each and every month, we organized an event in Sofia. It's actually on the last Wednesday of the month. And we talk about all kinds of topics related to Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies in general. And for 2017, what I'm planning to do is develop the local community here in Bulgaria. I think there is a lot of potential, and this presentation, I'm hoping, will be the first of its kind, and will be actually replicated in other universities here in Bulgaria, not only in Sofia. I hope that other towns will be interested. And as I mentioned, currently I'm focused on the community and bithope.org. But I've traded cryptocurrencies in the past. I've traded all kinds of cryptocurrencies. I've been to a couple of bubbles in the Bitcoin sphere. I've traded alternative cryptocurrencies. So I can say that, I have experience in that. And having in mind that experience that I've gained throughout in the last 4 years, I have one advice for you, and that is to start investing. But since this is not a one-coin presentation, I'm not talking about investing in cryptocurrencies, but in your skills and knowledge. Don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, primarily Bitcoin, I would say. And I also consider myself to be a Bitcoin maximalist. But I think there is much more to Bitcoin than what immediately meets the eye. And if people have heard of Bitcoin at all, they have usually heard about Bitcoin, the currency or the asset. But this is actually the first application of blockchain technology, and it's undoubtedly the most successful one. It's basically private money, a financial system that is parallel to the existing one, and it's not governed or managed by a single individual or institution or a government or any, so to say, a specific group. It's managed by the people, and it's open to everyone. And Bitcoin is also a unique technological experiment, which I believe is very important for the times that we live in. And it's actually not only technological, but social and political and economic experiment. And I believe that in the next few years, this experiment will change the society in a number of ways. Very similarly to how the internet changed society 20 years ago. or has been changing society for 20 years ago. And also, Bitcoin is the most powerful computer that has ever been created by humans, by the human civilization. Maybe you have seen or have noticed that the presentation is the blockchain and D is in brackets. And that's the reason for this is that I'll be talking about primarily two things, the blockchain and blockchain. And for me, according to my personal opinion and my experience, the blockchain is actually the Bitcoin blockchain. And I'll give you 3 quick reasons for that. The first one is related to market cap. And it's not very evident from this small little screen, but you can see that this is Bitcoin and this is Ethereum, and these are all the other 8 top cryptocurrencies that exist. And you can see that the market cap of the Bitcoin of the Bitcoin currency is much higher than all of them. Actually, the Bitcoin market cap is more than 95% of all cryptocurrencies that currently exist. I think it's even close to something like 97% of the combined market cap of all cryptocurrencies that exist. Another reason for why I think the blockchain is the Bitcoin blockchain is hash rate. And you can see the speed of the hashing speed of the Bitcoin network as compared to the Ethereum one. And you can see that the Bitcoin network is 300,000 times faster than Ethereum currently. And actually, this number that you can see here with the 18 zeros, it's called exa, and this is 3 exa hashes. And the Bitcoin network is the first network that has reached a speed of something exa. And the last reason why I believe this is the blockchain is, again, related to performance. These hashes per second are converted to petaflops here, and you can see a comparison between Bitcoin and the top 500 supercomputers that are managed by governments in the world. And Bitcoin network's performance is 100 times faster than those. But let's move away a bit from Bitcoin and talk about blockchain. And on this slide, I have presented some features that all blockchain projects have. So I'll begin with the first one, which is transactions. Much like in the case of Bitcoin, there are transactions or moving property from one address to the other address. And in the case of the Bitcoin blockchain, it's not actually something moving in actuality, but it's just some entries in a ledger that change. And the ledger that I'm talking about is actually the blockchain ledger. And this ledger is replicated, in the case, for example, in the Ethereum network, replicated 6,000 times. And once this information, the information in one of these ledgers changes or updates, all the other ledgers update in almost real time. And it's the same in the case of blockchain, of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Another feature is that it exists on peer-to-peer networks. The blockchain is usually peer-to-peer. I actually don't know about any other kinds. And that means that when you're transacting or when you're dealing with someone or sending money to someone else, you're doing it peer-to-peer, directly to the other person's address. There is no middleman. One important feature, very important in the case of blockchain, is cryptography and digital signatures, which prove identity of participants, and they enforce read and write access rights. And when we're talking about access rights to write, in the case, for example, in the Bitcoin blockchain, the group that can write on the blockchain is the group called miners. They are the only part of participants in the Bitcoin blockchain that can write on it and update the ledger. But they can only do that in accordance to a consensus mechanism. And the consensus mechanism is something very interesting, and different blockchains have very different consensus mechanisms. Another feature is the network effect. If you create a blockchain and nobody's using it, it's not really a blockchain. You have just created something for your own amusements, let's say. And finally, a very, very, very important feature, especially for the Bitcoin blockchain, and I believe for all blockchains, is the fact that you cannot change historical records. Whatever goes inside the blockchain, it stays there as long as the blockchain exists. And this is very, very true for the Bitcoin blockchain. If you put any information inside, for example, like a hash of a document, it will stay there as long as the Bitcoin network exists. But so far I've been talking about Ethereum and Bitcoin, and these two projects are examples of public blockchains. And the public blockchains, they have strengths and weaknesses. And I have presented some of both, but I won't focus that much on the strengths. I'll talk about more about the weaknesses. So according to this chart that I found, it's from a very popular Bitcoin blockchain news website. Irreversible transactions is a bad thing, but I believe that it depends on the application that you use the blockchain for. For example, if you have ever sold something on eBay, there is this possibility that is provided by payment processors like Visa and MasterCard, that the person who pays you can withdraw his money after he has received the product. And this is called chargeback. So I know that people selling on eBay are not big fans of chargebacks, and chargebacks are not possible in blockchains. So although it's a weakness, it's mentioned as a weakness here, I don't think it's that big of an issue, and it depends very much on the use case. Another weakness, and I can agree with that one, is the slow transaction clearing. Currently, the Bitcoin blockchain supports 7 transactions per second, while the Ethereum blockchain around 1,000, and that's a theoretical maximum. And if we have to compare this to Visa or MasterCard, they have 30,000 or 40,000 transactions per second. So there is a weakness, I would say, in public blockchains, but as you will see in a few minutes, there are solutions to that. What is a 51% attack? In the case of, for example, a public blockchain like Bitcoin again, this means that if you have 51% of the hash power in the network, so 1.5 exahashes of a bit more than that from the Bitcoin hashing power, you are able to make it so that the blocks that are being discovered are discovered only by you. And you can do all kinds of different stuff, but everybody will immediately notice, of course. But there is also something else. If you have 51% of this network, it's not in your interest to do harm to the network. It's in your interest for this network to continue to function, because if you have 51%, you will most probably get 51% of all the blocks. And each block that is found on average every 10 minutes brings you brand new 12.5 Bitcoins. So go to the next one, which is reduced privacy. This again is a bit controversial for me, because reduced privacy is in the case of the Bitcoin is that you can, if I have one of your addresses, I can use it and check its balance. But for example, in the case of Bithope.org, my project, this is a good thing, because once an NGO announces a campaign on the Bithope.org website, we provide it with a unique Bitcoin address, and they can use that and check at any time how much money their campaign has generated. So, and anyone else can check. So we cannot tell them that they have generated more or less. So it's super transparent. And in the case of charity, reduced privacy is actually a good thing. And finally, energy consumption. Some people believe that this supercomputer or hypercomputer, which is the Bitcoin network, is too energy inefficient. But I believe that if we make a calculation about the current financial system, how it functions, and with all its inefficiencies, it will be much more energy intensive than the Bitcoin, the public Bitcoin blockchain. But as I mentioned, all of these problems, they have solutions, and Bitcoin is an open source code, and it can be updated. And these are 3 examples of projects which have been proposed and which can deal with the issues that I currently mentioned, even though I don't believe that all of them are issues. Segregated witness is a big update to the Bitcoin network, which will enable many interesting improvements, like the Lightning Network or Schnorr signatures. And the Lightning Network will allow transacting in parallel to the Bitcoin blockchain, but with the same security, but with basically unlimited transactions per second, maybe limited by bandwidth, so internet speed between peers. And Schnorr signatures will take care of fungibility, the fungibility problem, and will make transactions less transparent. But again, you can either use or don't use these upgrades. When they are implemented, users can choose to use them or not. So I've been talking about public blockchains, but what kinds of blockchains are there? Like, what other kinds are there? I personally believe that public blockchains are really where the magic happens. These are projects which really need to get the game theory right, which means that all of the different participants, like miners, developers, users, and businesses, their incentives must be so aligned with each other that they work in favor of the network or developing the network and not against it. And this is a very subtle balance, which is very hard to get right. And that's why I believe public blockchains are the most interesting part. But nonetheless, there are also these enterprise blockchains. And currently, all the hype in the financial sector and all around, the one that we see in the media is more or less connected to enterprise blockchains, numerous and different kinds of enterprise blockchains. And actually, in the past, I was more or less against those projects. But now I can see that what they're doing is paving the way for the public blockchains. They're testing different use cases of the blockchain, which will eventually, once the public blockchains get scale better, will get implemented on the public blockchain. And there are also these hybrid blockchains which use the public blockchain but provide permission or create technology for permission networks. And there's this fourth kind, but I think here they have put it inside enterprise blockchains. It's private blockchains, where a blockchain is controlled only by a single company. Like, for example, Ripple, if you have heard about Ripple. What is the comparison between the two, the public and the enterprise? You see that I talked about this. The enterprise blockchains currently provide better speed because they are more or less decentralized, but in a control setting, so to say. And only some of the nodes have write permissions, and only and the others have read permissions. So the creator of the enterprise blockchain decides who has what. Also, it's not free to use. You need to be an approved participant in order to use that blockchain, and the identities of the people or the users are always known. While in the case of the public blockchain, for example, like the Monero cryptocurrency, the identities of users are absolutely unknown. In the case of Bitcoin, they're pseudo-anonymous. It's not, Bitcoin does not provide full anonymity. And this is actually one of the reasons why criminals or terrorists are refrained from using it. Because if their Bitcoin address is in a way connected to them, they can see all the Bitcoin addresses that have sent money to them. And then they can find the other people and so on. Basically, Bitcoin is much worse than cash. Because all transactions are public, and you can go to the blockchain and find any transaction there. From the beginning, from 2009, all of the transactions are stored into the Bitcoin blockchain. It's actually about 100 gigabytes now, 110 gigabytes. And about assets, it says here that in the case of enterprise blockchains, any asset can be transferred. But I believe that in the public blockchains, for example, like Ethereum, you can get ethers to represent also any other asset. So this again is, I would say, it's not a good comparison. So why is it so special? Why are blockchains so special? The reason is that they provide this world of applications that you can start develop, especially using a public blockchain. Virtually anything of value can be tracked or traded. Look at blockchains as the internet in its early years. You can use that protocol to create your own applications. And actually a lot of people and companies are noticing that. Who is interested, of course, it's the financial sector. When we're talking about blockchains and we talk about transactions, permissioned or public access, transfer of all kinds of assets, it's logical that the financial sector will be very interested in that. The financial infrastructure is very outdated. There are a lot of participants there with different levels of importance, so to say. It's super fragmented, and these companies are trying to use blockchain technology in order to improve their processes. And actually 14 of the 30 banks, of the top 30 banks are exploring blockchain technology, and 21 of the 63 publicly regulated exchanges are doing proofs of concepts on blockchain technology. But it's not only the big financial companies, it's also the huge technological companies like Intel or Microsoft, IBM. Actually, Microsoft, they have this blockchain as a service product on their Azure platform. I know IBM are developing a proof of concept for supply chain management together with the United Arab Emirates, and Red Hat, actually Linux, the Linux Foundation are developing a project. They have a huge project for blockchain technology called Hyperledger, and they're doing a number of proofs of concepts on the technology. But also Cisco, VMware, Nokia, all of these companies that I have enumerated here, and this is not an exhaustive list, there are many more, are doing tests with blockchain technology, either on a public blockchain or on a permissioned or an enterprise one. It's not only companies, governments are also looking into that. Well, of course, together with companies, and you can see here Switzerland, European Union, was it the UK, US, of course, Japan, all of these countries there, even Russia, actually. Ukraine, yeah, in the Republic of Georgia, they have a proof of concept on the land titles on a blockchain. And this here, how blockchain technology could change our lives, is a report that went out this Tuesday. I haven't read it still, but it's coming from the European Parliament. So it's the title is pretty positive, sounds pretty positive to me. I have to look at it. But what are the opportunities? And on this slide, you can see all of the different, I would say, categories of opportunities that blockchain technology presents. And it's actually an evolution that starts from digital currency to record keeping, moves through securities, and then goes to smart contracts. And smart contracts is a concept that was introduced by the Ethereum public blockchain. And it's basically a program on the blockchain that can be connected to other programs on the blockchain. And you can create networks of programs which basically are executed when one of the contracts does something. For example, some information from the outside world goes in, executes the smart contract, it affects other smart contracts. And with this technology, you can create very complicated relations between users in a system, in a public system. Here on this one, I have enumerated actual proofs of concepts that are currently being developed by either governments, companies, or financial institutions. And one of, I would say, one of the most interesting ones is the Internet of Things. Maybe you have heard that there were huge distributed denial of service attacks, DDoS attacks that were happening I think a month ago, something like that. And basically all of them were using not well-secured devices like printers or cameras, some, I would say, very simple devices, but they use their small power or ability to connect to the internet, and they basically create swarms of them, and these attackers create enormous problems for companies. And that's because of these devices are not well protected. And I think blockchain technology can improve the ability of the idea of Internet things to be realized. A lot of people, most of them much more intelligent than me, believe that we are currently at the beginning of a fourth industrial revolution. And the technologies which are part of this revolution are the ones that I've enumerated below. What I believe is that intelligent assets which are created on a public or a enterprise blockchain will also be part of the fourth industrial revolution. And not only that, I believe that the 6 technologies that you can see under the photo will be made possible or will be realized better thanks to intelligent assets on a blockchain. So what can you do in this world? So my other advice to you is to think strategically and invest in something that cannot be lost, cannot be seized, cannot be forfeited, and has a limited supply and will make you competitive. I strongly believe that if you spend time now to learn about this technology, or either as a developer or as a financial expert or a legal expert, or just in your free time, you will reap the benefits of this for years. And I think careers related to the creation or management of blockchain technologies in the future will be highly sought. And very much like, for example, web development in 1997, or the iPhone apps, creation of iPhone apps in 2008. What's more, these skills that you will gain by learning how blockchain technology works are super transferable or highly transferable. If you learn how the Bitcoin blockchain works, or how Bitcoin works, you will know about consensus algorithms, cryptography, economics, game theory, which is very, very interesting. You know about distributed systems, system security, and even finance. And these skills, once you know how Bitcoin is functioning, you'll be able to work on all of the other, either public or enterprise or hybrid blockchains. So this is my get rich slow scheme for you that I can propose. I think learning about how blockchain technology works and finding apps that can be created on it is a very, very good idea, and you should really consider it. So what can you do? This is the website, a website that I created a couple of days ago, actually, but work on it has been going for a month at least. And it's a place where you can go and register as one of these 4 profiles, which are developer, financial or trading expert, a legal expert, and an enthusiast. And if you go to that website and register, the first 20 people that use that code, that referral code, will get a very, very small amount of Bitcoins. But of course, during registration, there is a place where you can put your Bitcoin address. So you need to install a Bitcoin wallet, either on your mobile device or on a tablet or on something. And the first 20 people who register with that code will get a very small amount that they can start playing with and transferring around. Or if you don't want to do that, you can stay in touch in other ways. For example, you can join our public Facebook group, It's the Facebook group of the meetup. You can join our group at meetup.com. You can email me or even call me and we can have a meeting. I'm very open to all kinds of connections. And that's my presentation for you today. Thank you very much. And now we'll try to get Mr. De Domenichini online.
Yes, let's try our second guest, so to speak, because I have to take my duty as a moderator. I will miss my opportunity to register for the few Bitcoin chains with the code. But anyway, our next, hopefully, our next presentation works out. Can we check it out? Hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
I cannot see you. I don't know how many are you, but I hope to make myself understood. My name is Domenichini, Gabriele Domenichini, and I'm the head of venture and education at BlockchainLab. I'm happy to be here in Milan. Even if I'm not with you, I hope to try to explain to you who I am and what I do, and we could try to see together if there are opportunities for both of us. Yes, my name, as I told you, is Gabriele Domenichini. I am an entrepreneur, or better to say that I'm from a family of entrepreneurs, and we had two business, industrial business, manufacturing. We sold the businesses in 2013 and in 2016, and so I could dedicate myself to my favorite passion, that is Bitcoin. And I have become a Bitcoin venture capitalist. You can interrupt me when you want, because I'm going straight, but if you don't understand or you want to do some question, please go ahead. So, because it's weird to speak to myself to a computer, so as much as the interaction I can have, it could help me. Yes, my Bitcoin story is summarized here. In 2011, I heard an announcement from the hacking organization Anonymous. And at the end of the announcement, there was a Bitcoin address with which you could fund the organization. So I went on Wikipedia and I started studying Bitcoin, because I've always been interested in technology, in internet, and I managed the IT systems for my companies. I made my first purchase of $40, with which I bought 40 Bitcoins. And I started to study Bitcoin. I lost 5 Bitcoins because I put them on my phone, and I put them $5 Bitcoin on my phone, and I formatted it after 4 months, not remembering that I had put them there, so I lost them. But I didn't care. Today they would be $5,000, but back then it was just $5. Then in 2012, I realized that I had some Bitcoin because I didn't care at that time, and I went to check for the price, and I saw that it was $12. So I thought that maybe I had made some gain. In reality, I had I had made 10 or 12 per 12x my investment. And so I went and I subscribed to Mt. Gox, of course. In 2013, there was, I started studying Bitcoin seriously, something like the first days, 1 hour per day, then 2 hours per day. And then when I sold, my family sold the business, I could dedicate myself more to it. And so 80% of my time I studied Bitcoin, and I tried to understand how was the environment, who's who, and which were the most interesting projects, and so on. In 2013, I attended the first event in San Jose, California, held by the Bitcoin Foundation, and there I could see all the developers I knew just by name, or because I had read of them, and I knew Adam Beck, for instance, and Peter Todd and others. Then I went on studying, and I spoke at an event in my hometown. In 2014, I went to Amsterdam. There was another Bitcoin event, very big, by Bitcoin Foundation too. And I knew the founder and the CEO of the best and the most advanced Bitcoin wallet back then, and still now, in my opinion, that is Green Address. And I became a close friend to the entrepreneur. And I had money, I had time, and I had patience. So I could start to deal with him and to thinking about investing in his company. We became friends, as I told you, and he started to talk with Blockstream, that is one of the most important company in this space. He was invited to speak to San Francisco at FinDevR, that is an event, a fintech event, very important. So I went with him, and while we were in San Francisco, we went to Mountain View, where there was Blockstream, or the company, which were not yet incorporated. Do you want to ask me something? No. And so there were all the founders of Blockstream who were writing the sidechain white paper in this house of Mountain View. And so I knew them all. And I could see Gregory Maxwell, Peter Vella, Austin Hill, Matt Corallo, Jorge Timon, Mark Friedbach, all the names very important in this space. And then I invested in Green Address. And later, Green Address was involved in a big project with a big Italian bank, one of the first Italian banks. But then Blockstream was interested in Green Address, and so I helped the founder of Green Address to sell his business to Blockstream. Now Blockstream is the owner of Green Address, and I swapped my stocks in Green Address into Blockstream's stocks. Then in 2015, they founded an association in Italy called Assobit, that is an association of companies and professionals involved in blockchain technology, and they wanted me as a president of the association. So I became president of Assobit. And Assobit now can have among its members Deloitte, Ernst & Young, Entity Data, and other important companies. And then I joined BlockchainLab, that is this wonderful lab in Milan. I collaborated with them because they were the center of the research in blockchain technology, and we organized together Scaling Bitcoin Milano Retarget, and I participated as president of Assobit and as a collaborator of BlockchainLab. Later on, I became head of venture and academy in BlockchainLab. BlockchainLab is an organization which tries to fill the gap between the incumbents, who are financial institutions and utilities and bigger companies, and the environment in Bitcoin blockchain space, which are developers, startups, and academy, like Stanford Academy, MIT Academy, etc. Because incumbents have many difficulties in dealing with Bitcoin, and so they talk about only with about blockchain technologies. But we have many relationship with the Bitcoin environment, and we can deal with many developers and many startups and many academies. And we organize meetups, we organize events like Scaling Bitcoin, and we host Bitcoin experts in our lab for workshops, hackathons, meetups, and things like that. And we let them participate in some POC, proof of concepts, we prepare for the incumbents. We have various activities like the education, which I am the head, consulting for incumbents on blockchain projects, ventures, we invest in Bitcoin companies, and for instance skill building, in which we take developers who are good developers but they don't know the Bitcoin environment, and we try to build their skill in this environment, so incumbents can be interested in employ them, or they can of course develop their projects as a startup. We have started in Milan, but now we are incorporating a new company in Switzerland, because we want BlockchainLab to be the center. The company in Switzerland will be the center of many labs, one in Dublin, one in Montreal, one in Milan, one in Kiev, and why not maybe one in Sofia. It will be our Swiss center of a European, and more than a European, because we are talking to fund a blockchain lab in Montreal and one blockchain lab in Hong Kong. So it will be a center of excellence in Bitcoin and blockchain research and technology. This is my activity in blockchain lab. Now I would like to know if you have some question or some doubt. I've read the presentation of Vlad, and I found it really large. So if you have some doubts about the Bitcoin environment or the Bitcoin technology or the Bitcoin economy, I'm here also with Vlad to answer to your question.
So if you have any questions, you can either ask me or Mr. Domenichini. Just go ahead. Anything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a really basic question, and if I haven't understood something, but how is blockchain connected to the legal side of it all? I mean, if I sell something in here and somebody pays through cryptocurrencies and the contract is blockchain, and either side doesn't keep their promise, what happens?
Either side doesn't keep their promise.
Okay,
One of the sides.
I sell a property.
You said okay.
And there is a Chinese person who buys it.
Okay.
And our contract is in blockchain.
It should be in, for example, in bitcoins, on the public Bitcoin blockchain. You pay. He'll pay you in bitcoins.
Okay, yes.
Okay.
And we have a contract at the same time, right?
Well, you can have a contract which is connected to that. I mean, you can sign a contract beforehand, and the contract says he will pay that much amount of bitcoins.
Okay, so can this contract be signed in blockchain?
Yes, you can create a contract like that using, for example, the Ethereum network. And you can use a smart contract as, so to say, intermediary, which is basically functioning as a program for Ethereum network. And once a certain condition is met, the Ethereums or Bitcoins will be transferred to your account. Yes, but the easier way to do that is simply to, just for the person to pay you bitcoins or Ethereums or some of the other currencies, cryptocurrencies. But in any way, if we're talking about property, you will have to provide him. I mean, you have to go through the legal system, which means that you will need to, make sure that the contract is signed by the proper authorities and so on. Maybe in the future, in a few years, this will not be so. But in the case that you explained, basically you are using Bitcoin as a currency or Ethereum as a currency. So there's nothing, so to say, novel about this. And actually, there is a company called Bitpay, and you can use that to never even see the bitcoins. The bitcoins will go to the company, and they will send you, for example, euros or whatever. But hopefully in the future, the idea is that the economy will develop, and there will be a crypto economy in which you can buy and sell everything without the need to touch fiat money at all. Okay, hi.
Finally.
Okay.
It's much better to see you.
Yes. So, any other questions related to blockchain, Bitcoin? So, does anyone here have Bitcoins, even small amount of Bitcoins? Okay. Okay, great. Some people. And who has heard about Bitcoin before? Oh, a lot of people heard. Okay, great. This is good. And are there any developers who are developing or writing programs or teaching to do so learning to do so. I mean, not teaching. Yeah. Or just okay. So I mean, what is your interest in that? Like, why did you come here today? What is the interest? Maybe we can start a conversation or something. Or
getting rich slow ski.
ah, okay. Getting rich fast, you mean, or slow? Ah, okay. Yes, you want to be informed about the opportunities. Yes. Okay. So as I mentioned at the end of my presentation, as Mr. Domenichini mentioned, you can contact us, and if you're interested in the topic of blockchain technology or Bitcoin as a whole, we can help you maybe create a career out of that, either as a developer or as a financial expert or as a let's say legal expert. So if you're interested, now you know where you need to go. Come to us and we will help you. Any other questions? One there in the back.
How do you exactly become a miner?
So being a miner means that you have a powerful computer that does hashing. And in the case of Bitcoin network, you need a really, really powerful computer that will do a lot of hashing. But no matter how powerful it is, it won't be powerful enough for you to do solo mining or mine only yourself. So you need to join other miners, and you will most probably will need to connect to a pool. And there are a couple of large pools that exist currently. If we're talking about mining of Bitcoin again, there are three very big pools of miners in the sphere, which are around 20%. They have 20% of the whole hash rate each. So most probably, if you want to start mining, you will need to connect to one of the pools. And once a pool finds a block, which is 12.5 Bitcoins currently, you will get a percentage of that reward, which corresponds to your hashing power. And to answer your question better, in order to start mining, you need to purchase hardware, which is very specialized for mining. Or you can actually, if you don't want to buy Bitcoin, mine Bitcoin, you can buy GPUs, which are basically video cards, and you can start mining with those, but you won't be able to mine Bitcoin. You have to mine some of the alternative currencies. And actually, because I visited BlockchainLab a few weeks ago, it's really a really nice place. I've never seen anything like that. And they're also doing some mining as an experiment. Oh, he's showing BlockchainLab. Oh, there we go. So this is the place where all the developers are working. And at the very end of that, at the other end of the room, they have a little mining rig, and they're currently mining, I think, Zcash, or maybe they switched to something else. But yeah, this is BlockchainLab, and it's a really interesting, very interesting place. I've never seen anything like it. And I would really love to create something similar here in Bulgaria for people who are willing to work with blockchain or in blockchain technology. Yes, something like co-working space. Yes. Yes, and BlockchainLab, they when I was there, they had very interesting people, very world-class developers from the blockchain sphere, and I met them personally, which doesn't happen when you live in Bulgaria like too frequently, which was also very interesting. So BlockchainLab, I hope in the future will help us get some world names here in Sofia that can talk to you about blockchain or all the most recent developments in the sphere.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Oh, there's a...
So while we still have Mr. Domenichini on the phone, because he mentioned he has thoughts on Block3. So I was wondering what are his thoughts on Bitcoin Unlimited and the block size debate?
Okay, so the question is actually not for me, it's for you, is what are your thoughts about Bitcoin Unlimited and the block size debate?
Yes, I'm prepared. Yes, I'm biased because I have always been with the core part of the debate, so I am prudent about raising the block size. The problem with BU, as long as I can see, is that there is a new type of consensus that is called emergent consensus that has never been tested. So the dangers are really big in my view. And sincerely, even if I was a big blockers, as we call them, I would be a little bit concerned about the integrity of the consensus. Just to explain what is all about, because probably not everybody knows what we're talking about. The Bitcoin network is made by a number of machines that keep the copy of the unique ledger in which all the financial transactions are written. It's extremely important that this machine run the same code, because they have to reach an agreement on the state of the ledger. This mechanism in which the machine reaches the agreement about the state of the ledger is called consensus. And it's what keeps the Bitcoin network what it is. If you try to write a software which is not conformant to the consensus, you substantially provoke a fork. A fork, it means that every new page of the ledger is accepted by one part of the network, and it can be refused by another part of the network. And this provokes that the ledger mainly take two or more than two different ways, and you end up with two different ledgers. Two different ledgers, it means substantially that your currency, in which in this case is Bitcoin, it doesn't exist anymore or something like that. Is split in two new currencies. And this is a great danger and detriment for the value of the currency. And even your investment is no more so valid. BU, that is the Bitcoin Unlimited movement, wants to raise the size of the pages of the ledger, of the blocks, and by doing so, if not every machine agree on that, it substantially will provoke a hard fork. And so I'm a bit concerned by this movement, and I think that the majority of the network will refuse it, but only the time will tell what we will end up with. I'm trustful that we will stay, the network, I mean, we will stay with the core the core software. That is the main development group of interest. We have something like 100 developers, core developers, and BU has something like 5 developers. And in terms of lines of codes, we can talk about thousands of lines written every year against, I don't know how much, but it's a really poor development in this stage.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? There's one there.
Yeah, I have a question to both of you.
About?
About the both of you.
Okay, sure.
Because I want to know your opinion about this. In the beginning, you started your presentation saying that the blockchain is useful only if there are other people using it.
Mm-hmm.
And as having now Bitcoin being one of actually the best and most well-known cryptocurrency, I want to know, in your opinion, is there another cryptocurrency that has the potential to replace Bitcoin?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, did you hear the question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard is what my opinion on altcoins or my opinion on an alternative currency that could replace Bitcoin now or in the future. I think today is unlikely. Why? Because the interests are to focus on one only currency for the network effect. In the cryptocurrency space, the network effect is huge, and also the effect of the network effect. Sorry about the round trip of the word. Is huge. I mean, if everybody focus on Bitcoin, gain value and also in its utilization. If we split our interest among other currencies, it's difficult that one currency has the right diffusion and usage. One only thing that could favorably push another currency is its fungibility. The fungibility of a cryptocurrency, we mean that when you accept one Bitcoin, you don't care the provenance, the origin of that Bitcoin. In Bitcoin today is not pretty much so, because you can track the history of that particular Bitcoin, and so the government can be able to track the story of the Bitcoin and judge that you have accepted a Bitcoin involved in some not so legal affair, for instance. Or maybe if you are in a government that doesn't allow foreign trade, you could be accused of illegal trades. So it's important for a cryptocurrency to be fungible. I mean, if Bitcoin, one Bitcoin would be absolutely indistinguishable by another Bitcoin, Bitcoin probably would have no more obstacles to succeed as a global world currency. but it's not exactly like this for the history tracking. So there are 2 or 3, 4, 5, projects, alternative projects, who improve a lot the fungibility of the cryptocurrency. One of these is Zcash, Zcash, I mean, and we are mining Zcash in the laboratory. And Zcash is a cryptocurrency based on some very complex math called ZK snarks. That is an algorithm by which you can assert the accountability of the cryptocurrency without knowing the content of the transaction involved. So it's possible to have a circulation of this kind of cryptocurrency without knowing absolutely who owns how much or what. Another cryptocurrency of this kind is Monero. And another who has been discovered and is under development while I'm speaking is Mimblewimble. That is another interesting project for a cryptocurrency that is absolutely untraceable. There are other 2 methods to, let's say, turn Bitcoin in a more fungible currency that are called join market, Tumblebit, or also CoinJoin, and confidential transaction are all techniques to improve the fungibility of Bitcoin. And so I think that the future of Bitcoin, it could be just or a more fungible Bitcoin, or another cryptocurrency that is more fungible than Bitcoin.
Thank you. And actually, I fully share the opinion of Mr. De Domenichini. I believe that transactional speed and fungibility are very important for the success of Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency. So these 2 factors, I think, will determine if Bitcoin will remain. But as Mr. De Domenichini mentioned, Bitcoin still enjoys an enormous network effect. And in the case of cryptocurrencies, this is very important. So I believe that in the future, Bitcoin will become fungible and will become also, the transactions in the Bitcoin network will be much faster, will happen much faster.
Yeah, I could add just one thing, that is the fungibility is necessary for a cryptocurrency because you cannot comply with any jurisdiction if you want to be a real global world currency. It would be almost impossible.
Another question there?
Last short question, please.
Yeah.
Do you know who is exactly Satoshi?
Of course, yes.
His real name.
So the question is, who is Satoshi Nakamoto? And this has been a big question in the sphere for a long time. I don't think it's a very important question because the network, since he introduced it, has been changed numerous times, upgraded, and actually the team behind it, the core team that Mr. Domenichini was talking about, they have changed the network a lot since it was introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto. But one good reason why he hides his identity is, for example, could be the fact that in some jurisdictions you are not allowed legally to create a currency. And if it's if you are identified as a person who created the currency, you are facing serious punishment or jail time. So this is one good reason for why he's hiding it. And there are a lot of conspiracy theories related to that, but I personally don't pay much attention to those. And maybe I think this is we should actually leave the room in a couple of minutes. So thank you all for coming, and I hope it was informative. And thank you, Mr. Domenichini, for joining.
I'm sorry about
Okay. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Ciao.
И с това завършваме нашата събитие. Благодаря на всички, че дойдохте и останахте до края, макар че май го претупахме, че можеше още 10 пъти по толкова да говорим. Ама затова Влади обещава да организира конференция в България за всеки такива неща. А сега напускайте палбата.